Hi guys, and welcome to the next video. This video will be practical again, and now we're gonna cover port forwarding, how you can actually make your host visible in the network. So we're gonna get into more detailed networking stuff. So let's say first what is a port forwarding and why do you actually need them. So to forward the port means that you are actually telling the router if a packet is coming for that specific port, that is going to be redirected to our specific machine. So for example, if I set a port 80, which is HTTP server, and say the router that every packet that comes to his external IP to port 80, the router is going to redirect all that packets to us. So basically we're going to start acting like a server, like a web server. And now we're going to see that in practice. Why do we need that? Because most of exploits are made this way. For example, most of the reverse shells are made this way. You have to enable specific port for the reverse shell in order to be successful, because you don't want to get blocked by your own firewall. Also, there can be phishing pages, phishing servers, especially for hacking, which also are used with ports, and you have to know how to open ports, how exactly the router is working, and how exactly to redirect all packets to your specific port. So let's just start from the beginning, and we're gonna grind our way through it. Now we're gonna use a patch to web server on my current machine. So first thing, let's check our IP address. So ifconfig. So my IP address is 1.103, and now I need to install a web server, which is basically Apache. So apt-get install Apache 2. Keep in mind that I am currently logged in as a root user, as you can see here, root. So I don't need to use sudo, but in your case, if you're using Ubuntu or non-root user, no matter what distro, you may encounter difficulties here because there is no sudo. So yeah, just add sudo and then click enter. As you can see, Apache 2 is already the newest version, but if you don't have the Apache, it's gonna be installed with this command. So the Apache working with directories, and its default directory is /var/www/html. So all the files of the Apache are stored here. As you can see, we have index.html and index.ngxdebian.html. So let's remove them both. So our Apache folder is now completely empty, and if we start actually Apache with the command service Apache to start, then we actually navigate to our localhost to see what's actually there. So localhost, yeah, as you can see, it's completely empty server, but I want to mention a few things. The first thing is that localhost we used here, and actually the IP of ours. If we use localhost, we're going to be redirected to our local IP address, but that localhost is only for us, for our specific machine. In instance, if we see our IP address, which is 192.168.1.103, we're going to see the exact same page, but here we access it as a localhost, here we access it as a local IP address. So what I mean is that the localhost is the different and unique for all machines, all the hosts out there. For example, if in your machine you go on localhost, you can access your localhost directory or web directory or whenever you've set up there. If you want to access other one's directory, you can do it with the IP address. But since you are on the local machine and the web server is here, I can use localhost to access my web server. So I think you understand that. So now it's time to move on and actually modify our web server. This is done by creating an index.html file, since index.html is the first file that displays to our web server. For example, we can store multiple files here, but index.html will be displayed if that IP is reached. So nano index.html, we have to add HTML tags, which are HTML head, body, and then we just need to close them, and then HTML. So everything between body will be displayed in our web page. So let's say h1 for bigger text. It works. And of course close the tag. Okay, so save the file, restart the Apache service, Apache to restart. And now if we actually reload that, we're gonna see it works. So as you can see, we've accessed the IP address and it redirected to our index.html page. Okay, so this is how the web servers are basically working. This is the basic of web servers, but we're gonna see that in future videos. For now, you just need to remember what is localhost, how to access actually your web server, and it can be done with different machines. For example, if I go to my Windows machine and start H, and here I just type 192.168.1.103, yeah, you see I get the exact same page. But if I get localhost here, I won't get anything. Okay, so now let's move on. Let's see first for our external IP address. This can be done by visiting Google, by visiting any search engines, or by creating a script as I did. For example, if I say what is my IP, it's gonna give us my external IP address. So this is my external IP address. If I copy that and paste it here, let's see what happens. Nothing happens because we didn't tell the router to redirect any port, and now we are accessing the router using port 80. As you can see here, if I type port 80, if I manually specify port 80 and click enter, it's gonna disappear. Or if not disappear, it just all the browsers are working on that specific port by default. Yep, as you can see, here I typed port 80 and it just disappeared because by default all browsers are working on that port. And we cannot see nothing here, but we have indeed web server available. So what do we do now? We go to our routers page, which is 192.168.1.1, and we start with the route command. And here on forwarding, you can see there is nothing to forward. This table actually tells the router if the packet is coming on port 80, for example, redirect to that machine. So our machine starts acting like a server. So let's add the new rule. That's all we have to do. And the port, which is 80, in that case, 80. And the IP address 192.168.1.103. And you can see more obvious here that we specify the port 80 and we specify on what IP address to forward that port. When we save, let's see 8080 and that IP address. So we can now, yeah, as you can see, now it's working. Now we've accessed our web server throughout our external IP address, and it's all visible. So for example, now if we make any changes like nano index.html, yep, save the file, now reload. As you can see, we've completely accessed our web server throughout our external IP address. So we can try the same thing using other machine, for example the Windows one. Yep, it works nice. So if I specify port 80, it's gonna give us the same page because we are doing exactly that without specifying the port. So this is how actually you can start acting like a server. This is how you can actually become visible to the outside of the world, because what happens is a client connects actually to the router, and you know that the connection to the router must be on specific port unless it's ICMP. So the connection to the router must be on specific port. So the firewall of the router checks that port and checks if there are any rules. And now we've set up the rule that if connection comes on port 80, to redirect to our machine, which is that Kali machine running right now. And that's all we've done. This is the concepts here, the ideology. So it's not hard, and you saw it in action. So now I'm gonna show you another trick which is very cool, and it's all about Python this time. We're gonna set up Python HTTP server. So for example, let's change directory, like change it to desktop. Yeah, as you can see, we have 3 folders: C, home, and Python. And now I can use Python to generate a simple HTTP server with that command, python-m simple HTTP server, and I can specify the port I want that server to run. For example, I can specify 8080, which is the proxy of HTTP, but I can specify, for example, 8, which is not meant to be for HTTP. So let's see what happens when I actually navigate my IP address 192.168.1.103. It's get to the default page because we are using port 80, like that. Yep. But now if I navigate port 8, it's gonna redirect to the Apache web server. As you can see, there's a directory of my desktop. And now we can do the same thing with the router if we actually forward port 8. Oh, sorry. On that IP. And now we get our external IP address, which is yeah, what's my IP? Get it from here. Paste it here. Specify port 8. Bam, and we get the exact same page. So this is how you can actually use port forwarding in order to make yourself visible, to host something, to host a website, to host payload, and we're gonna see the payload options in future videos, but the principle is the same because the reverse shell is needing a connection back. So thank you guys for watching. This is today's video, and the next video we will be more focused about scanning the network itself. So thank you all for watching, and see you in the next video.